Good morning, Geek Nation.
I'm Drake the True Snake.
I'm Kane Martin.
And I just woke up. Morning.
Good morning, Cake Drain Nation, and welcome to another episode of I Just Woke Up. It's Friday, the weekend's almost here. There's a lot of fun to be had on the weekends, so post in the comments some of the fun you'll be having this weekend. Now, let's get today's episode started with something really cool. That's right, I'm talking about a fairy tale. Let's check it out. Story time with Mackie D. Get crunk, y'all.
Oh, what's up, y'all? My name's Mackie D. Welcome back to Story Time with Mackie D. So, I got an interesting little story for y'all. Shenanigans and the 50-foot wig. Let's get into it. Once upon a time, down in the projects, there was this girl named Shenanigans. She lived up in this, big old house complex. And her mama was like, "Girl, what you with all these weeds for? You can't go up and public with all these crazy weeds. What you doing?" She's like, "Mama, I look awesome with all these weeds." And they're like, "Whatever, you ain't nothing. I'm gonna keep you all locked up till you get some sense." She's locked up in her room. Of course, she had a window and she's looking out. And figuring out a way to get out of there. Then she just this gangster dude walked by, strutting, got some swag. He looks up, he's like, "Oh, what's up, girl? What you doing?" And she's like, "I'm stuck in my room because my mom won't let me out." And he's like, "Well, I can help you out if you get me up there." And she's like, "All right, hold on just a minute." So she went and started tying all her weeds together to her own weed that she's wearing on top of her head. And she's like, "All right, here you go." And all her weed, and all of a sudden, long weed comes down of her window down to the floor. And the dude's like, "What your hair doing this long?" She's like, "It ain't my hair, it's a weed." He's like, "Oh, so it's good." So climbs up the weed, gets up there, and he's like, "Sup, girl?" She's like, "Sup?" "So we be out here?" Nope. So he ends up busting down the door. So he sneaks out of the house, and then they run off. They get themselves some, grilled cheese, and roll with a Mercedes later on. And they're all happily ever after, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed this story. I hope to see y'all next time on Story Time with Mackie D. Peace.
Well, that's been Story Time with Mackie D. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave your story suggestions and feedback for Mackie D in the comments. Or you can tweet us at CakeDrain, #Mackie D. I'll make sure he gets those. Alright, now let's move on to our next segment. It's time for Friday 5 Faves. So today on Friday 5 Faves, we're continuing the video game movie theme of this week and talking about some more really cool stuff. Now, at the beginning of the week, I mentioned some video games that I think would make awesome movies. And towards the end of that video, I put up a small list of upcoming video game movie adaptations. And now, while that list was very small and there are a ton coming out, I figured I'd go back for today and list the top 5 best video game adaptations of all time. While most video game adaptations, unfortunately, are either really bad, or they do really bad, or they're both, and a lot of really bad flops are, like Doom, and the Max Payne movie, and Hitman, and among others. So in general, studios tend to shy away from video game adaptations because they have a really bad track record. However, there are a few that have been critical and commercial successes. And this list is 5 of those films slash franchises that managed to actually be good. So let's take a look. Number 5, Silent Hill. Now, while this movie, upon its release, was met with a lot of mixed to negative reviews, it did fairly well financially and managed to spawn a sequel. Now, while the sequel wasn't nearly as good and didn't do as good as the first one was kind of a gem. I personally enjoyed it, thought it was a great horror film, and was fairly true to the mood, tone, and atmosphere of the games. It really captured that feel. And I thought it was a really interesting and good movie, and I think it deserves a spot on this list for its success and ability to at least spawn one sequel. Number 4, Tomb Raider. Now, like Silent Hill, this first movie, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, did well enough to spawn a sequel. And the first one was met with fairly good reviews and did very well financially for a video game adaptation and based on its budget. It was a fun, kind of high-tech Indiana Jones type feature, you know, starring Angelina Jolie, who I think was a really good pick for the character of Lara Croft. And the movie was fairly decent, and even the sequel, though it wasn't as well received critically, still was a pretty fun movie to watch and did fairly well financially, and was able to create a short franchise and kind of rose above most video game adaptations of the time. Number 3, Resident Evil. Now, really the whole franchise. The Resident Evil adaptation is different from most video game adaptations because it really strays pretty far from the atmosphere of the games. It's not a lot like the games. It borrows characters and some plot elements and creates really a whole different genre. And instead of being more of a slower paced horror thriller type of movie franchise, it's more of a science fiction action with some horror elements in there. And these movies have done really well financially. They were well received by fans, not necessarily critics, but most fans did receive the movies fairly well. And the franchise made such an impact that the video games started to become more like the movies rather than the movies trying to be like the video games. The video game franchise turned from survival horror into a more third-person action shooter. And I enjoy the movies. I think the last one was a little weird and kind of didn't quite fit even in its own franchise, but it was nonetheless successful and a good and smart video game adaptation franchise by Paul Anderson. Numero dos. Now, this movie is actually the highest grossing video game adaptation of all time, and it's Prince of Persia, the Disney-made Prince of Persia starring Jake Gyllenhaal. And this movie was pretty good, and I liked it because it threw some twists at you, and I felt like it really captured the essence of the video game that it was adapting. It wasn't adapting the very first Prince of Persia, it was adapting Sands of Time. And that was the first Prince of Persia game that I ever played, and the one I'm more familiar with out of the franchise. And so I really did enjoy the movie, and I thought it stayed true to that atmosphere. The later games got kind of dark, but this one kept more of the adventure, thriller, and awesome fantasy excitement of the Sands of Time game. And it was met with, you know, mixed reviews, but in general, it did very, very well for a video game adaptation, and I think it is the reason for a lot of the video game adaptations that we're going to see in the future, because we've got a massive list. Number 1. Now, this movie is number 1 on the list not because it is the most financially successful, but it is, for other reasons, the most successful video game adaptation, and that's Mortal Kombat. The first Mortal Kombat. This movie really not only captured the the essence of the video games in a more approachable sense, but it also was kind of the first of its kind. There weren't really any movie video game adaptations up until this point. Maybe a few very obscure, forgotten movies, but Mortal Kombat brought it to the forefront. It was a critical success. It was met well with fans and everybody else, and it was a financial success. The special effects on it were very good for the time, and the movie still holds up today. Now, it spawned a sequel that wasn't that great, and a couple other television movies that came out, but there's even a TV series coming out based on Mortal Kombat. And so I think none of that would have happened without the success of that first movie, and we probably wouldn't see hardly any, or at least half of the video game adaptations that we see today if that movie hadn't come about and been so successful. And Paul Anderson also directed Mortal Kombat, so he really knows his stuff whenever it comes to video game adaptations. The secret is not just directly adapting the plot of a video game. It's more of satisfying the fans, but also presenting these ideas to a new audience of people that don't necessarily play video games and otherwise wouldn't be exposed to it. And you kind of create something new, because the movies, unlike the video games, weren't super gory and violent, and they were very approachable, but yet hardcore fans of the games still enjoyed the movie. And so that's why it's #1 on the list. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed this top 5 list of the best, the most successful video game adaptations of all time so far. We've got a lot of video game adaptations coming out in the future, and some I'm really excited for are like the Warcraft movie is probably the one I'm most excited for. But we've got everything from Assassin's Creed to Minecraft, another Hitman adaptation, a Ratchet and Clank movie, among tons and tons of others. So look forward to all that. Remember to post in the comments what you think about this list and what are some of your favorite video game movies. And also remember to leave your comments about Storytime with Mackie D. You can send Mackie D your suggestions by leaving them in the comments or tweeting us at CakeDrain #MackieD. Alright guys, that's all for us today. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Peace out. And remember, Bruce!
My butler's gone, he went away.